or morning or afternoon, whenever y'all are watching this. It's Jordan here, and we are going to talk about the American West and meets assessment woes. We all love assessment, don't we? It's my favorite thing in the world. So, who is American West? Let's start with that. They're a mid-sized baccalaureate institution located on the perimeter of a metropolitan area with 8,500 undergraduate students and 500 graduate students. Currently, well, sorry, I misspelled that. Currently holds an HSI distinction, Hispanic Serving Institution, not a his. And 5% increase in admissions over the previous year, which a lot of that is being attributed to the HSI distinction. Let's talk about the players. We've got Caleb, Associate Dean of Admission, Christina, American West Scholars Program Director, Anna Beltran, the Director of Student Services, Jason Morgan, the Assistant Director of Athletics, Greg Samuels, Coordinator of Student Involvement, Bryn Martinez, a 27-year-old Latina student who transferred to AW as a psych major and works as a student worker in the Office of Student Involvement. And then we have Victor Alvin, who is a 21-year-old senior who was recruited through the American West Scholars Program and is also the vice president of the Association of Multi-Ethnic Students. Okay, so basically the point of this is Anna is given the charge to lead an assessment committee for student affairs. And she was very detailed, giving demographic data, parameters for their HSI funding, because if you're not familiar with it, HSI funding is a lot like Perkins funding. It's very specific, and you have to have some very specific data in order to utilize it. And at the end of Anna's presentation, she charged them with presenting specifics as to how their departments or offices were supporting those goals of the division and addressing the institution's distinction of becoming an HSI. And that was to be discussed at the next couple of meetings, and they needed to prepare a report for the vice presidents, focusing on improvement and enrichment opportunities. Everything's great, dandy, fantastic. So what's going on? What are we going to do? Well, the vice president just decides he's going to send out an email basically saying that there are potential fiscal cuts for the coming academic year. Thus, unit heads were asked to prioritize budget requests for the coming academic year and to show evidence of quote-unquote value-added outcomes from the previous year in order to access monetary funding available for HSI grants. Obviously, this caused an uproar real quick because that's not what Anna presented in the assessment committee. In fact, it's very much the opposite. They are now, if I were in their shoes, my funding was being threatened, I would be terrified, and I would, of course, want to defend my office. And so what to do? That's the slide that I'm on now. One of the things that was brought up during this was the quote-unquote research methods that were utilized by Anna's area and student involvement weren't exactly, what was the word that they utilized? They were questionable because we have SurveyMonkey, SurveyGizmo, Facebook, Twitter. Now, we all know informally that's a good way to capture data, informally. It is not the greatest way to, base potential funding off of. I would say that. So, I understand the Greg, I am Greg basically. So I understand where he's wanting to show and highlight late night programming and, advocate for increased funds, but sometimes it just doesn't work like that. And although you have, I'm wondering what kind of data he has collected, number one, if it's just a numbers game, or if he actually has found a way to somehow utilize Facebook and Twitter to understand the depth of what students are learning and how that is meeting the HSI guidelines. That's just a me thing, though. So we need to figure out what's going on there. Student focus group, that's another thing. I know that this is supposed to be like, what would you do if you were Anna? Well, it looks like, in 2 hours, well, it looks like Anna's entire committee, fell apart. So I don't really think Anna's having a meeting. If it was, honestly, if it was me, we wouldn't be having a meeting. Instead, I would be doing things like this and determining what to do moving forward, because I don't think she has enough information in order to, go in there with confidence, because they already don't trust her because they think that she has misled them or betrayed them in some way, when the truth is she just was, blindsided as well. So Bryn brought up a really good point about the use of social media and technology, and that's all Greg does. And while it is convenient, it's not always the most effective depending on your student population. When I worked at Angelina College, there were students who didn't have internet, they didn't have phones. You had to figure out other ways to approach them and approach the situation. And so, Bryn feels as though she's not being heard, and the actual, data that's being captured by Greg could potentially be skewed, because the students there's more students than they realize that don't utilize those forms of social media, or consume it daily, or even have phones or have internet, so it could be a very skewed perception of the data within their department. One thing I cannot stand, though, about all of this is the every person for themselves mentality. We are a college. We are one. We are all working for the same goal. Okay, we all play an important role. And I don't understand why we would withhold information from one another. Although I will say, I'm going to move this and kind of blend it with the Vice President of Student Affairs. I feel like what the Vice President did was truly set his team like Hunger Games style. Like, now they're fighting till the death, and they're not, because admissions wants this money and this program wants this money, and so we're just not going to share data and nobody's going to know what's happening. That's just the most toxic thing you could possibly do. Like, I think that this is way deeper than just a assessment woe and, issues with an assessment committee. I just think that this case study was really frustrating to read, honestly. And I know technology is a necessary evil. Yeah, we need it because, technology is advancing all the time, but we need to have alternatives to it as well for our students who don't necessarily utilize social media. So we're not, that's why everybody pushes out things via your student email. Everybody has a student email. Like, and you can get on the email at the campus. That at least would help a little bit more. But I'm not sure. This was frustrating, because I feel like I've been in this scenario before as well, and I don't understand why there is a lack of sharing. We are all working with the exact same students, working towards the exact same goal. I say exact same. I know people say, like, oh, these are my students. Well, they're my students too. They're everybody's students. Like, I don't want to say we have ownership over them. That's not it. We just feel like mama bird and we baby bird them. And so when people say things like that, it's like, yeah, but it's all of these students. We need to be concerned about every student. And now, Anna is looking at like preliminary assessment report, budgetary priority session from the VP. It's kind of like, honestly, it makes you want to walk in there and be like, bro, you didn't even give me the time of day. I was trying to, I know you were traveling or whatever, but this was vital, and you were able to shoot off a crazy email that stirred the pot, and now, she's being hung out to dry. And if I were her, I'd be going in there guns a-blazing, because I'd be like, well, you set me up for this. And that is awful, because it just kind of seems like she's just trying to do the right thing and do a good job and do right by her students. But instead, she now looks like somebody you can't trust and kind of a slimy little snake. But if I were her, the next thing I would do is literally walk right into that meeting with that VP and be like, I don't have your data. Here's why. Now tell me exactly what it is that you were trying to get at, because clearly there's been different messaging regardless. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, that has to happen, and then something has to happen in order for her to get her credibility back, because this wasn't her fault, but now everybody is like, nope, every man for themselves. Nope, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to do this. And that is not good for anybody, especially the students. Like, at the end of the day, we got to come back around. If the departments are not working well together and not playing nice, the students will notice. They always do. Students are not dumb. They are very observant. And that's the last thing that we need to do is be airing our dirty laundry to our students. So, I mean, I didn't exactly answer the question at hand, which is the next assessment meeting. And as she finalizes, she wonders how she'll lead the meeting. I don't think she should have a meeting. I don't think she should do it. I think she needs to stop, drop, and roll, basically. Just be like, hold up. I got to get with my VP. I've got to clear this out, and then go from there. Because it's just, this is more than just oh yeah, let's meet and talk. Like, no, there's got to be some clarification here, because clearly there's been some feelings hurt, there has been some trust lost, and we've got to take a time out and figure out what the next steps are going to be. And you can't do that without clarifying. So, anyways, thank you. I hope you enjoyed my rant. I apologize. I just got a little frustrated reading this case study, which I do every single time, I feel like. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.